Now I know this isn't Big Ten, whatever related, but I will say this is my only non-Big Ten
Big
related
Ten or go
thing.
home, except the pick that.
Except the first pick that we make.
Welcome to the Red Stars Report podcast, a podcast dedicated to bringing the latest news and commentary on the NWSL Chicago Red Stars. I'm your host, LT, and this is my co-host, Grant.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Grant. Hope you're having a good new year.
Splendid.
We'll see what the rest of this month unfolds. If you've joined us before, welcome back, and I really appreciate you coming back and supporting us as your source for the news on the Chicago Red Stars. If you're new here, welcome, and we appreciate you listening.
There's a lot of stuff that's happened, LT, and even this morning, the news that I woke up to. Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to talk about Davidson?
Well, we can start with talking about Davidson, because I spoke briefly in our last episode about what that departure kind of means to the club, but we haven't had your thoughts on it. So kind of what's your take on this situation?
Oh, well, for starters, I am a Davidson stan, and unfortunately, I've had to turn my jersey around now. Now that she's no longer a member of the Red Stars. I don't know what Gotham is doing. Like, we know what they're doing, but like personally, like, that's a lot of talent you got there, and it would be nice if you could share. But like, I get what they're trying to go for, repeat, whatever. Um, but I don't know how they can afford it. I don't know what's going on. Just a lot of stuff. But I get it, wanting to go somewhere else and have a new challenge, and that opens up a spot for somebody else to come in and take over for the Red Stars. Honestly, all the best to Tierna. Um, we're all gonna miss her. She's probably gonna do really well for Gotham, trying to get on that Olympics roster. It makes sense to go to a team like Gotham. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, but stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a huge loss for the Red Stars, but as I said in our last episode, I'm really glad that we can be in a space in this league now where a player can choose where they want to be and choose a place that they feel is, best for them and the best environment for them. And a lot of what Tierna had said in her interviews after the announcement really spoke to what she was looking for, and it just wasn't what Chicago could provide for her, and Gotham could. So, like you said, best to her. I hope she does really well. I can't wait to root for her on the national team, and I am I Gotham is like my second team. Like I really enjoy
Not
watching
anymore.
Gotham play, but the as it always goes in this league, the stronger you get, the more hate comes
Yep.
to you. And like I'm a big fan of those players, but hopefully the Red Stars take you down. We'll see what happens. I
Yeah.
don't know if it'll be possible. We'll find out. But
Well, I
it,
mean, you could build a super team, and then there's the lack of chemistry. But I mean, since Gotham is basically the new home of the U.S. Women's National Team, I feel like the chemistry is already there. And
yeah, those players have
yeah,
been teammates already, so it wouldn't be a surprise if they are like immediately meshed, putting a lot of very big names on their squad, and we'll see what that does for them. But it hurts the Red Stars in the meantime.
Yep, my heart hurts, but you know what? There's people that are going to want to play for the Red Stars. New starting center back role just opened up.
It's
Got the
true.
draft coming up. Things can happen, so we'll wait and see for that.
Yeah, the other painful news that you had mentioned that we were going to bring up is it's not necessarily Red Stars related, but she is a former Red Star. Sam Kerr ruptured her ACL in training the day that we're recording this. And it's just devastating news. We love Sam here, and we have since her days of wearing the Red Stars crest. We wish her a speedy recovery, and I'm really happy that her fiance, Chrissy Mewis, is now in London at West Ham and can be there for her during this instead of playing in the NWSL in America and having to distantly um, be with Sam during her recovery. But is there anything that you want to say about Sam? I know you're a big Chelsea supporter and a big
I'm
fan
a
of Sam.
huge Chelsea fan. Um, because the men are always trash, and it's the women's team that always, brings my spirits back up. But it's pretty devastating news, especially with title hopes and Champions League hopes, and then of course the Olympics in July. I've never gone through such a horrible injury like that, but I'm assuming it, gets you mentally. So, I hope that she takes care of herself during this time. And, of course, she has the support of Christy as well. But just horrible, horrible news. And there needs to be more research done about ACL injuries in women's soccer because it's an epidemic.
It's just become a crazy storyline like every single time. Almost like you become numb to it when you hear another person tearing their ACL.
Yeah, I'm still in shock. I woke up, I opened Twitter, and the first thing I saw was Chelsea FC women. Sam Kerr ruptured her ACL, and I'm like, oh my God. Well,
See,
I hope she has a speedy recovery.
I'm not a huge Chelsea fan.
Get out of
I
here
I'm
with
a
your
big
West
I'm a
Ham.
big Sam Kerr fan.
Yes.
Big West Ham fan. Glad Chrissy Mewis is both in London to help Sam through this, but also to help my team fight their way out of
They're not going to
relegation.
be relegated. I don't know why everyone keeps joking about this. They're not going to be relegated. They're
It
going to be
could
fine.
happen. They also got
They're
Katrina
going to be
Borey,
fine.
which I'm very excited about. Anyway, we
Yeah.
should. I'm also a huge Matildas fan. They're my number two international team. But anyway, so
Same.
we what we really should be doing instead of talking about Red Stars adjacent news is we should be talking about you know what is actually related to the club, which is we made a signing finally.
Yay!
It's we've been waiting for it. It's not a signing that people kind of expected to happen. It's not one of the players that were on the club formerly who are free agents. None of those have happened yet since Carey's resigning in free agency, but they did sign central midfielder Chardonnay Curran to a 2-year contract off waivers. Curran was drafted 17th overall in 2022 NWSL draft, one pick before the Red Stars had at 18. And Curran actually told a story on a couple of podcasts that I heard when I was doing my research on her, was that she expected to be called at 18 by the Red Stars. Like she had discussions with them and they're like, we're going to pick you at 18. Like, don't worry. And she missed the 17th pick on TV because of a commercial or something and got a call from Kansas City a few minutes later. And then she was on her way to Kansas City. So she was pretty much destined to be in Chicago. And now she's here. So what are your thoughts on the signing, Grant?
Well, I also listened to a few of those podcasts. Since she grew up in Hawaii and didn't really know a lot about, the Midwest, I hope she knows about Illinois at least. Because she didn't know about Missouri and Kansas.
I believe
So,
all she said was, I know the bean. And that's
oh, I
it.
know the bean. Hey, that's better than middle of nowhere Kansas. Missouri,
Yeah, that's true.
borderline, because they play in Kansas, right? Not Missouri.
I think they will play in Kansas. I think their current stadium is in Missouri. I don't know.
See,
Always get
nobody
very
knows.
confused. I always get very
Nobody
confused.
knows.
I don't know. It's like
So that's already better.
it's true. Well, does she know Bridgeview though?
Nobody knows Bridgeview.
Yeah.
Nobody knows Bridgeview. I didn't even know where I was going the first time I went to a Red Stars game, but nonetheless, um, I'm really excited because we have somebody that has a 2-year contract. It's not just 1 year, two. That's great for us. Add another midfielder, younger player, wants to be in the city. Perfect. Plus, had a lot of experience playing in the Pac 12. Very competitive league. Unfortunately, it's going away,
It's true.
but you know, that's okay because it's going to the best league in college sports, the Big Ten. Um, anyway, that'll more on that later. Um, I'm really excited about her coming in to play for the Red Stars. I'm gonna be interested to see what her playing time is gonna look like.
Yeah.
She didn't really have a lot of starts last year for Kansas City because her role changed a little bit. Um, but hopefully she gets a good amount of playing time here. I'm just really excited about this signing.
Yeah, she didn't find a lot of minutes last season with Kansas City, mostly because they signed so many midfielders during the offseason that it her role, like you said, kind of changed. But there were a lot of injuries in that midfield in Kansas City last year, and she found minutes here and there throughout the season. Obviously the midfield in Chicago was, devastated a couple seasons ago. So adding a solid midfielder, I think was a good move to me. I reviewed all of her matches that she played 30 plus minutes in last season, and my thoughts on her is that I think she's a solid overall player. Like nothing super flashy kind of stood out to me in the minutes that I saw her. I really do like her quickness, especially laterally, off the ball. And she puts a lot of effort on the defensive end as a central midfielder, which is something that I think we'll really need for sure this year. She makes really good decisions in the passing game. I saw like she's not the greatest passer that I've ever seen uh, play, but the decisions that she seemed to make in the matches that I watched were typically always the right decision to make, the right pass to make. She made open like when she would push high. She seemed to always kind of be open when she was pushing high. She'd like throw her arms up, uh, calling for the ball, but whoever had the ball typically didn't really see her. But I did go look at her heat map on SofaScore, and she tends to play her best in the right side defensive half of the field. So she might fight for minutes with or behind Carrie Recaro. She could be a pretty solid player in defense. I didn't see a whole lot of her offensively, but I think in a defensive midfield, depending on what kind of formation head coach Lauren Donaldson deploys or whoever else we add to the squad this offseason, we'll kind of see how that plays out. But that's kind of like that's what I saw in her from the matches that I watched.
Yeah, I watched a highlight of that game that Kansas City played against Monterey, and the run that she made, it kind of basically started that whole goal, that the tap in goal for
Yeah,
that.
her only professional goal, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I noticed was really nice. I'd be interested though in whatever formation that they pick next year. I think
Mhm.
they should change it. I know that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, we kind of
Definitely
have to
scrap everything. from
See,
last year.
see how the roster plays out before formations kind of come into it.
Yeah.
Um, I know that I saw a lot of people kind of looking at the Curran signing and saying like, well, if Kansas City didn't want her, like, why should we want her? Um,
That's a bad way to look at it.
but so she actually requested to be released by Kansas City to play elsewhere. Like she didn't feel like Kansas City was the right place for her to be in her career, and so she asked them to release her, and that's why she ended up on the waiver wire, and that's why Chicago ended up picking her up. And if Chicago wanted her back in the 2022 draft, it doesn't surprise me that they would quickly pick up on that release.
Yeah.
It doesn't it's not surprising because she's a player that expected to be in Chicago. I don't know who like would still be in the front office from uh the
Well, that's what I
2022
was just
draft.
gonna say too. Like, because there's
I
so
don't know.
much change.
There is. Yeah, so I guess I don't really know who would
The goalkeeper
still
coach.
be. I still don't know who. Yeah, Rade might be just like, "Hey, we've wanted her, so we should so so we should take her." Um, but I will always say about any player who signs with the Chicago Red Stars that if they want to play here after everything that's happened with this organization,
Yeah.
then there's someone that I want to be on this roster. Like, obviously, you're not going to look at a player and be like, oh, they're a terrible player. Let's get them on the roster because they want to be here. But it's something about it feels like they will fight more if they want to be here. It's not like
Hmm.
they were drafted here and they were stuck here. Or if, their contract was so long they're stuck here. It's like a player, and not just for, like you said, not just for 1 year, but signed a 2-year contract. So at least some turn, like some kind of longevity with the club. If they want to play here, like I want that player on our roster. I want them.
Yeah, and the people that are making those kinds of comments too, like there's many reasons that someone gets released. So just to like I know I went
Yeah.
off last episode, but like just I know it's like also a business thing, but it's also like a personal thing sometimes as well. So, to each their own with their comments. But I mean, I'm excited for Chardonnay to be here and to be a
Yeah.
Red Star. And
Me too.
maybe gets on the jersey over here. We'll see.
People are not only are people gonna have to fight for minutes on the Red Stars this season to see who gets in the starting 11, but they're gonna have to fight for Grant's back of jersey name.
Hey, I'm still gonna say that Milazzo is still my number one
Okay.
for this, but you never know. Like if we sign someone that I like in the next few weeks, like could move up. But
To
yeah,
go back to Chardonnay, um, one of our community members, Jamie, aka Boog, that's what, as we call him, he's been saying for months, anytime that Curran's name was brought up, that she should be a Red Star. And
oh, I think I saw a screenshot of this.
I went back and I looked through all like the chats, the search history on the Discord, and the first time that he had mentioned it was February 2023. So for 11 months, he's been manifesting this signing, and it finally happened. So good job, Boog.
If we get Chardonnay on the pod, we got to bring that up.
Oh, absolutely. And so, he made the first external signing of 2024 happen.
Yep.
So, I can't wait for to see his next prediction. We'll just start throwing out, really, really good names, see what happens.
Put the predictions in the Discord.
Yeah. And if you are a listener and you enjoy kind of discussing the Red Stars with other people, I really strongly encourage you to join our Discord server. We'll have a link in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, it's at the beginning and end of every episode. It's a great space with constant discussions of the Red Stars as a club and just women's soccer as a whole. It's a really fun place to be.
Love self promo. I love reading
Self
through it
promo
though.
on my own podcast.
Yeah. It's like an ad read.
Yeah.
You want to keep up to date with the latest Red Stars news? Make sure to join the Red Stars Report Discord channel. Link down below.
Speaking of news, just I'm not sure if within the next couple days the club will sign anyone. They could very easily sign someone after we record this episode, but
Now,
you know, we we know that barring any trades, they'll at least have 5 players that they'll pick in the college draft this Friday. The Red Stars have those 5 picks. Round 1, pick 3. Thanks, expansion draft. Uh, round 2, pick 17. Round 3, pick 31. Round 3, pick 41. And round 4, pick 45. And I'm not really someone who watches a whole lot of college soccer outside of Northwestern soccer and some of the matches. Don't boo me. Some of the matches um, throughout the NCAA tournament. So I know players through that, but I, don't watch their whole careers like some people do. And I'm not the most well versed on this topic. But so how's your college soccer knowledge, Grant?
Go Big Ten or go home. I only know about the Big Ten because I used to work in Big Ten college soccer scene. Yeah.
Um, Last season, the Red Stars drafted 4 players, 3 of which signed with the club and still remain with the club. Those players are Penelope Hocking, Ali Schlegel, and Sophie Jones. Penelope really made an impact right away on the club, having to kind of step up in Mal's absence during her injury. And Ali was an absolute beast in the limited minutes that she got last season, which I think is criminal that she didn't get more minutes. She could and should fight for that starting center forward position. I really do think that she could make a huge impact with the club there. But Sophie Jones didn't really have any meaningful minutes all season to make much of an impression on the pitch, even though she was a huge presence off the pitch amongst the team.
Yeah.
So a player like that, that's the kind of player that you want on your team. So like the draft last season was seen to be very important for the club. And that being said, the club has had a lot of great young talent and hopefully veterans on that front line who currently are free agents returning next season, hopefully, like Mal, Ella, Bianca, players like that. They're kind of set, can be set at the forward position, but so I really think that the club needs midfielders and defenders in the draft. But Grant, who are some names that you've got your eyes on for the Red Stars on Friday?
I would just like to bring up a question to you before I answer
Oh,
your
okay. Go
question.
ahead.
Is how likely do you think we trade away our first round pick or our third pick for maybe like a high profile name, maybe for like center back or whatever? How likely do you think that is?
I see with Tierna gone now off the club, like, and Kayla, like center back is probably definitely the most important position that needs to be filled right now. And if there is a center back on a club, an established, like either young, very talented center back or a veteran center back who could solidly, you know, form the Red Stars back line next season into their own ship. If a player like that is out there and a team is willing to trade up 2-3 to get it, I think it could happen. But the draft this year with who is declared is very midfield defense heavy. And I think it would be a missed opportunity for the club to pick a player who is very talented at center back in the draft without the risk of going too far down and missing talent like that. I don't know how likely it is, but I could see it happen, but maybe not as likely as just picking a center back at pick 3.
Okay. I'm gonna predict that something crazy is gonna happen like last year. Maybe not involving us, but like another big name going in like at least the top 10 picks. That's my prediction. But yeah, I think since we desperately, desperately need a center back. And as you saw yesterday in my graphic design creation, I think that we're gonna pick up Ava Gaetino from Notre Dame. Now I know this isn't Big Ten, whatever related, but I will say this is my only non-Big Ten
Big
related
10 or go
thing,
home, except the pick that Brent
except the
makes.
first pick that we make. Since we so desperately need a center back, I thought, who else other than Ava? But I would just like to say that I don't know if she will right away be in that starting slot, but with her performance at Notre Dame, I would assume so, just because all of her awards and achievements that she got at Notre Dame. I would say maybe she is the next Davidson, but we shall see.
Yeah, she has a lot of size at 5'11", and always kind of seems to be like in the right place at the right time, very much like Davidson was. So if they choose her at number 3, like that's what I would want to. That's exactly the name that I had there as well. I think it's an obvious choice, because mostly because of the players that I think are going before her. But if she goes, I don't think she'll go 1 or 2 to Utah or Bay, but we'll see.
Yeah, and there's still people to declare for the draft.
That's true too. Yeah, we're
So,
recording this on Sunday, and Monday's the deadline, so we'll find out if some massive names come on Monday, and our predictions will be useless.
yeah.
Is there any other names other than Ava that you were thinking of?
Emma Jasinic is a need, not a want, is a need. Especially if we want more defensive midfield minded players. Plus, I think she can just roam the entire midfield, doesn't matter what position she plays. She is that good. Broke my heart during the Nebraska Wisconsin game because I got to bring up the Huskers. Um, Absolutely awesome. I just I hate when other players that good play for other teams, like especially Wisconsin of all teams. But Emma Jasinic is another one, and of course Reagan Cox from Michigan State. Big Ten or go home. What about you?
Yeah, the Emma's an incredibly versatile player, from what I could see, and I don't know if she'll go like at pick 3, but if she's somehow around at pick 17,
Brian?
I would not be upset. Big Ten midfielder of the year, Mac Herman, semifinalist, a player that could literally play anywhere on the field. Like I said, she's incredibly versatile. Um, Comes out of Wisconsin native. The Red Stars love in the past to pick Big Ten players. That's what they've done. And or at least just Midwest local kids.
Yeah.
That could change with the new front office, new head coach, um, that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest need is center back, and like all I hear people talking about, is Ava Gattino. Like that's Like that's the player that I think will go number three. I had employed the help of our community members, Noah, Cheryl, and Criminalist, who watch soccer or college soccer extensively, um, to help me in my research for this episode for this topic, because like I said, my knowledge is very limited. So if I say names here, none of them are selected by the Red Stars. Just remember that this is the reason that I
Not your
have a
fault.
pod. No, well, it's
Oh,
not their fault either. This is the reason that I have a podcast and not in, a GM for a professional football club.
yeah.
Um, I I'm not a scout. I
Disclaimer: we do not
disclaimer.
know anything. No, I'm kidding.
We don't know anything. We have no knowledge of this. We are just putting words together.
Yeah.
They gave me lists of players. Noah gave me a very detailed cheat sheet, which was amazing, and I'll put it in the description. I got his permission to show everybody. It's he has a lot of thoughts, and I love it. And so with those names, I did more research on the players, so I, could actually know what I'm talking about. At least for the first couple of rounds, I'm not like too familiar with the players who will be going in the later rounds. Although Noah does have like a lot of like the later picks. He even made like a mock draft. It's great. But as I said, we do need a center back, and Ava Catino, I think, will be that center back at number three. Um, Other defenders that I think would be right for the Red Stars, either at center back or fullback, are Julia Elias out of Georgetown. Also, I'm going to butcher names. I just want to let you guys know that I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say everyone's name correctly, but so forgive me. And then McKenna Morris out of Clemson, who I hear a lot of people talking about.
Oh yeah.
And
If
then
we could get her, yeah.
yeah, and then Kennedy Wesley out of Stanford. If any of them are available, um, if we know for a fact that, like Casey Kruger doesn't resign, I think those would be important players to take if they're not going to be around in the second round. But it's hard with, who you think is going to go number three. But I hope one of them falls to the second round or something, because those would be great pickups. You could see players drop out of the first round. You could see, late round defenders not named who end up being better in their career than top draft picks. So just kind of remember that. Although Kennedy Wesley is a defender at Stanford, and they seem to kind of never miss with
It's
defenders out of
Stanford.
Stanford, or even players out of Stanford for that matter. Obviously, the club also needs midfielders. There's a few names that I'd like to see called during the Red Stars picks on Friday, who play in the midfield, but specifically like defensive midfield. I think we're kind of covered in like the attack of attacking side of the midfield. But the name that I've heard a lot of lists have is Corey Dyke out of Penn State, because who wouldn't want another Penn State player on the Chicago
Yep.
Red Stars? Also a player out of Colorado, which, you know,
Is she the one with the connection to real Colorado? Is there, because I know there's a few names on that
no,
list
the I wrote some of those down for fun because I thought it would be important.
for
Like,
fun.
well, I just thought it would be important
Yeah.
because of their ties to Lauren Donaldson. A couple,
Van Zanten, she's one, right?
so there's a few players uh that I looked through the draft list and saw that their youth club was Real Colorado, was Maddie Livingston, who's a goalkeeper out of the University of North Dakota, I don't think
Okay.
we'll need a goalkeeper, but also just like remember that these like players who I'm going to list right now
Hmm.
obviously are not like definitely going to the Red Stars, but they could end up as like either late round draft picks or non-roster invitees in camp. And then Ollie Makowitz, another goalkeeper, Clemson, and then Jamie Tatum, a midfielder out of the University of Wyoming. All of them at one point in their youth career played for Real Colorado, so it would not be I would not be surprised if Lauren had his eyes on them, having possibly known them and known them in their youth
Yeah.
careers. But the player that you had mentioned, who is expected to be drafted pretty high, that we should all kind of keep our eyes on based on her ties to Lauren, is Van Zanten, Kiki Van Zanten. Told you I'd butcher these names. Midfielder, Buffalo Grove native, so Illinois native, and then also a Jamaican international. So she could end up on the Red Stars because of her ties to Lauren. So that wouldn't surprise me either.
Do you think she'd be available at 17, or is that like out of the question?
I think that's probably out of the question.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know if she'll like be looked over. Maybe. It's possible. It's like we'll pick two players out of this entire list or two players that we don't even talk about. And that's very possible. Back to the midfield specifically, as I mentioned, Corey Dyke is a player that I could see them taking like at number 3 immediately. Very good player at Penn State, Big Ten Defender of the Year. Played center back, but probably a little too small to be center back. I think she's only like 5'6". Um, Probably a little too
Taller than me.
small. I don't think you can play center back for the Red Stars either. Uh, Shorter than 5'6" at least. Um, the what I looked at like Big Ten Player of the Year, she'll
Yeah.
probably move up into the defensive midfield once she gets into the NWSL. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But it's a player that I would keep my eye on. Um, I really like her, as I said, there's already 3 Penn State players on the Red Stars. Why not a fourth? You know. Another name, which I will probably butcher again,
Okay.
is Hal Hirschfeld, who seems to
Close
also
enough.
be on everyone's list, a midfielder out of Clemson. According to Noah in his list that he gave me, he said, quote, slot her next to Julia and let her cook. So that's not something that I'd argue with. That that she seems like a great player in the little research that I did on her. And I know that there's probably some people right now that are saying to themselves like LT, why didn't you mention like Roy Bethune or Maya Doms or Brecken Mazingo, Emily Moxley?
They're not coming.
Because yeah, it's because they'll probably go to Utah or the Bay, or the Red Stars won't select them at 3, and they will definitely not fall to 17th. If they do take one of them for some reason, I would love to have any one of them. I'm
Yeah.
not going to argue. It's cool with me, but those are kind of like big names that I keep seeing on everyone's lists that are like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. So I doubt that they'll end up. I mean, one of them obviously has to end up available at 3, but
Yeah.
I don't think the Red Stars will take them. But prove me wrong. I don't care.
The GM that we have, prove us wrong.
Yeah, no GM. Whatever your not name is, prove us wrong.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, we are getting Ava, and I'm pumped. I'm manifesting right now.
Mhm. I would love to see it too. I think he's a great player. I'm cool with it.
Then I don't have to make a new graphic. It's already made.
If it isn't the case that the Red Stars pick any local players, or at least early in the draft, I would expect them to at least pick them late or invite them in as non-roster invitees if they don't get drafted. But there were several players that I did want to mention that people can kind of keep their eye on who are local players. Aaron McKinney is a goalkeeper, a Belvedere native out of the University of Wisconsin. Um, Megan Nemec, midfielder, Tinley Park native, out of the University of Minnesota. I think she was a Loyola Chicago player before she transferred. And then Autumn Weeks, a forward, East Peoria native out of the University of Louisville. You can kind of keep your eyes kind of on those players because you might see them either late in the draft or as non-roster invitees with the club if they kind of keep going towards that local talent, which is something I did want to discuss with you, Grant. Is it important still to kind of have that local talent with this club?
No, I don't think so. At least not right now. I feel like the Red Stars issue beforehand was, Eclipse, 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 like whatever. Like that was their thing because of Roy. But I feel like instead of just focusing on local people, we should just branch out and get talent from other states, kind of attract people from all over to come play here instead of only grabbing from the same pot, grab from a different one instead. Um, I mean, it's always nice to have local players on your team. That's great, but let's try to get people from like California or something to come play for the Red Stars. Like trying to branch out more instead of being in the same area, I think is important for the Red Stars moving forward, especially with all the talent that we've gotten from Eclipse. And they are great players. I'm not, dragging Eclipse. We've got a lot of great players that played for Eclipse. But at the same time, we need to branch out more and kind of back away slowly from only focusing on local talent.
Yeah, I think a lot of the non-roster invitees that kind of come into camp for the last several years have really been that local talent because they were known by the coaching staff, especially with like players who played within like the Red Stars reserves for years as well. Players like Tatum, like Amanda Kowalski, Amanda Fick if she changes. Uh and I think it's important, like you said, to branch out and start having these players from what you might think of as like untouchable sections of the country. It's almost like recruiting, in college. Like there's talent there that won't get drafted, but we shouldn't continue to focus on, kids that are from the area. You could still, you know, bring them in, but I would really like to see them really branch out to all corners of the United States and bring in some players that went unnoticed in the draft and bring them to Chicago and see what they can do. I think it's important to note as well that Lorne will have a big say in all of this as well, and he's not, a local guy. That's why we brought up the players who played within his youth system, why you should kind of keep an eye on those players because that is, he's an international coach. He has a lot of connections throughout the United States, throughout the world. And it wouldn't surprise me to immediately see his impact and his importance on the club shown through who gets invited into training camp, but also who gets drafted on draft night on Friday. And speaking of Lorne, I was looking around, um, just doing some research and info on him, and I came across Real Colorado's send off message to him on their website, which makes me feel really good about the club's choice to hire him. Listen to this from um, Ron von Lemk, who is the chairman of the organization. He said, "quote On behalf of the board of directors of Real Colorado, I would like to express our heartfelt appreciation for Lauren's dedication and significant contributions to our organization. He has been instrumental in elevating Real Colorado to new heights, and we are thrilled for Lauren as he embarks on his new journey and equally enthusiastic about the future opportunities of our team. Lauren will always be an integral part of Real Colorado family that he helped shape, and we eagerly anticipate maintaining and celebrating our relationship with him in years to come." And then the CEO, Jared Spires, said, quote, "Lauren's advancements to this new role as head coach of the NWSL Chicago Red Stars is something that has been a long time coming. In my view, his dedication to Real Colorado was probably the main factor behind any postponement. I'm genuinely thrilled for him and eagerly anticipate his accomplishments in his next chapter. Personally, Lauren is an irreplaceable figure in various capacities as a coach, a mentor, individual, and a friend. Though I'll miss his frequent presence, I take comfort in knowing that our bond and the roles he plays in my life remain unchanged. I'm excited to uphold and advance his legacy that he's crafted in Real Colorado." And I love quotes like that. It really speaks volumes to Lauren's character, his dedication to player development, both on and off the field, and also just his relationship to others within an organization that he was, the pillar of.
Yeah, like you said earlier, he's gonna make an instant impact in a lot of this decision making, especially with the draft coming up. Um, and what he did with Jamaica in the World Cup too was pretty incredible in itself. Um, I'm just excited to see, the first two games that the Red Stars play and what that kind of impact will look like. I know things probably won't, turn around for us right away, but the fact that he specifically is the one that is coaching us now and with all those amazing things said about him, kind of makes me more excited to have him here in Chicago. But time will tell, of course.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to bring up those quotes, because like I've heard really good things about him from people, but just stumbling upon, you know, um, goodbye messages from people who he had extensive relationships with through his youth soccer program, like what they had to say about him. Like I'm excited to see what players say about him when he starts in his new role, whenever that is. The club really hasn't announced when he'll, be in the building, but he just seems like the kind of coach that not just players want to fight for and play for, but what anybody within an organization wants to be around and be better for.
Yeah, I mean, all around great guy. I remember the flip that he did after
Yeah.
they advanced. That was cool. I'm gonna bookmark that. Anytime we win, that's the gif I'm gonna post.
Okay.
Is him flipping. That's a new thing that I'm gonna do because
I hope
that's
he also
insane.
flips. in a Red Stars match when they win. I hope it happens. It'd be very
Playoff win. Do a flip,
playoff
do a
win.
flip.
They'll do it.
We're gonna make the playoffs.
You're gonna call that now. We're gonna make the playoffs.
Yes.
With the what is it, 19 players we have on the roster? We're gonna make them.
We are gonna make the playoffs. Mel's coming back. That's all I'm gonna say in terms of that. I don't know who the heck we're gonna sign, but we are gonna make the playoffs. I'm saying it right now on January 7th,
Okay.
2024. It's gonna happen.
Okay. We'll see.
Follow along for draft updates on Red Stars Report. I will be live tweeting and making player graphics. I'm excited for that.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Just
No
your
pressure.
first
Anyway,
posts. Just your first posts on Red Stars Report. No biggie.
yikes.
No
My
biggie.
first and last, it sounds like.
No. No.
I promise I'm going to do my best as admin for Red Stars Report, my short-lived time for admin, on draft day.
So here at Red Stars Report, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you find your podcasts. If you want to see our reactions, our beautiful, gorgeous faces, I'm wearing my pink hoodie and my pink hat today, making my face pink. You can watch us on our YouTube page, Red Stars Report. Subscribe to our show wherever you watch and listen, and turn on those notifications to see when our new episodes go up. And, you know, like Grant said, make sure you're following us at Red Stars Report on all our social media channels to keep up with the latest news in between the episodes. Special shout out to Noah, Cheryl, and Criminalist in our Discord for your help with the draft research. I'll link Noah's draft sheet and his mock draft down below so anyone can see the great work that he did. If you are a listener and you enjoy discussing the Red Stars with other people, once again, I encourage you to join our Discord server with our link in our description. It's a great space, constant discussions on the club. And I believe several of our members will be having a live voice chat on draft night to watch it together. So join in on that. I have to be working during the draft night. So Grant will be live tweeting our draft coverage starting on Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. The draft will be available to watch on Ion at the same time, which is strange. But so yeah. I hope you guys enjoy the draft week and have the great rest of your day. And don't forget to subscribe to us so you can catch us on the next episode of Red Stars Report.